secret and in your face at the same time far exceeds that of anything prior to the year 2011. Because, ladies and gentlemen, this has been before every person in America's face for 85 years, and Michael Fazio, aka myself, is the only person in the history of this world to see these pictographs for what they are. So in the eagle's dexter claw, one talon facing downward and one talon facing upward. Again, in the eagle's dexter claw is the one talon facing downward and 3 talons facing upwards. Again, on the sinister claw is the same thing. The sinister claw has one talon facing downward and 3 talons facing upward. This is not something that I have made up or changed on the reverse of the $1 bill, ladies and gentlemen. Number 7 is the talons of the dexter claw. Number 8 is the talons of the sinister claw that we just discussed. Number 9 is the bough of olive branch. Has one stem or segment of the branch facing downward, and on the opposite side or claw known as the sinister claw, there are 3 feathers facing downward, and the combination of those two represent the numbers 1 and 3. And I will show you that because that is a pretty complex pictograph in and of itself. However, once you understand how to utilize pictography, this is pictography in the highest possible nature of pictography. Immediately between the end of the pointers on the compass, or the dividers, at the bottom of the olive branch is one protrusion downward. One protrusion downward. On the opposite side, on the arrows, are 3 protrusions downward. 3 protrusions between the tips of the dividers. 3 protrusions. One protrusion is another representation of the number 13. As difficult as this sounds, as hard as this might be to comprehend, however you wish to believe or try to prove me wrong, any person on earth that understands the methodology in which to create pictography, ideograms, or glyphs from previous ancient histories knows this is how it's done. It's done like this so that people from all nations and all walks of life in all parts of the world can understand a concept in pictures much more easily than they can understand different dialects of languages and or words or word phrases. This is pictography, ladies and gentlemen. This is what appears on the $1 bill. Now, moving back to Angels on the Ark by Michael Fazio, and item number 9 being discussed, we move to item number 10, which is the banner that the eagle holds in its beak, E pluribus unum, which has 13 letters. We all know that, but I will go through these one at a time. The banner, E pluribus unum, which has 13 letters. Moving back to Angels on the Ark, we of course have item number 11. Immediately to the right of the sinister claw is a beaded offshoot and has 13 individual beads. This is the segment that has 13 individual beads. There are 13 beads there, ladies and gentlemen. And moving back to Angels on the Ark, number 13 is in fact the Indian chief that I have said repeatedly represents the god of war, and this is the Indian chief represented as Barack Hussein Obama, or the commander-in-chief, because he is in fact in charge of the war machine of the American government And he is also going to be responsible, as I have previously stated, for the destruction of this world via nuclear catastrophes of a various amount in nature. And just today, digressing for a moment, this is Barack Hussein Obama, represented as the Indian chief that has feathers, a bow and arrows in his dexter and sinister claw. The Indian chief has the appearance of an Indian because he has a bow and arrows and a headdress. And although some people say, well, it's not a full headdress down to the floor, well, you know what? These feathers kind of go down to the floor just like it would be on an Indian's headdress in real life. However, understand, ladies and gentlemen, this is pictography. These pictographs represent several thousand other things in direct relationship to other verses and phraseology in the Bible. These ideograms and ideograms represent several thousand different concepts depending on the angle of inclination, the angle of incidence of the objects to light, the various different types of wavelengths of light, and how you perceive them in relationship to other parts of the bill when folded in association with or without Euclidean optics. This is the most complex pictograph or picture on the face of this world and may have been used by dozens of different societies throughout the universe to control a populace. Once the necessity to control that populace was created via something similar to that of the Catholic Church, they may have called it the Catholic Church on another planet 1,000,000 years ago. Either way, this is the methodology in which you have been controlled via the religious dogma and the good and evil nature of the universe. And I am not saying that there is no good and evil. I am saying that they have utilized this to control the masses of the world itself at large for the last several thousand years. And the fact that the Great Pyramid is placed on the reverse of the $1 bill represents that is the starting point of their story, which I have often called the almost incomprehensible plan. I have also called it the ultimate paradox, and I have coined the terminology for all of these things within the bounds and volume of my 1990-page book. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is why and how my book is the most revolutionary book that has ever hit the market. The most revolutionary concept in the 21st century by far. Of course, they will kill me for my concept and my ideas. However, it is also written in stone at this point because this book has been published and there isn't much they can do about it now except remove the $1 bill from print and from the American way of life so that no one can see that this is in fact a high probability of what they have done via the institution of the Catholic Church, Christian societies that go along with the Bible, which has its good and bad points, and or the governments of this world, such as the United States of America. But more importantly, now they have formed the UN Council to police the world. Uncouncil? Uncouncil means no council. Non-council doesn't mean it's a council. It means it's not a council. It means it's fictitious. That's how they are doing it, ladies and gentlemen. And to prove this, we only have one moment left, but here is today's article that the United Nations has now stepped in to the Israeli conflict, or might have to step in to the Israeli-UK media report increased planning for a confrontation with Iran. What I can tell you about this, ladies and gentlemen, is that if in fact the United States of America and or the United Nations gets involved with a nuclear war, and this representing a nuclear fusion reaction, if the United States gets involved with a nuclear war in Iraq or Iran or Israel, and the Great Pyramid is somehow contaminated by nuclear energy, the world ends, ladies and gentlemen. The world ends. And at that point, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for me to get a bigger camera.